9:06 a.m. We will begin this work session of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. We are going over short and long-term goals for each department with sprinklings of discussions of budgets and other great things. We have first up on the agenda the animal shelter, which is run as a partnership between City of Leadville and Lake County. And this will be led by Caitlin Kuzco, the director of the Leadville Lake County Animal Shelter. Good morning, Caitlin.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Awesome.
Caitlin, would you like me to share the presentation?
Sure, I can share it from my end, but if you're able to do it on your end, that's great.
Give me 1 second to get to it.
Thank you.
All right. Can you see that, Caitlin?
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, everybody. So one of our short-term goals, especially with the Animal Shelter Advisory Board, is continuing to have fundraising efforts increased. So we've had one board member who was able to identify 2 additional grants. I've applied for multiple grants, and we also do have in the budget proposed funding portion for a grant administrator who would find grants that we are eligible for. Another thing we have discussed, since we are a government organization, we aren't always eligible for certain grants. Sometimes those grants are specifically designed for nonprofits. So we have mentioned briefly having a Friends of the Leadville Animal Shelter, Leadville Lake County Animal Shelter, which would help in applying for those nonprofit grants. We would also discuss different fundraising efforts for the community so that they can be involved, such as the mural project. We've had several community members stop in recently to pay for different murals. So if you're not aware of the current mural project, that is our wall in the lobby where we take the adoption pictures to post online. We have tiled that off with painter's tape, so you can pay $25 all the way up to $45 for a square, and then you can paint it, you can freehand it, you can stencil it, you can send us a picture of your pet and we'll trace it for you to paint. There's a variety of options there. So staffing wise, we are going to be hiring an assistant manager next year. Pardon me. We've previously had one, but not since 2023. So the assistant manager will help focus on the day-to-day so that my time is freed up for reports, projects, grants, so that I can focus on bigger picture versus having to go into the shelter to cover when staff are calling out and we don't have enough staffing. Next slide, please. So every year we submit SMART goals to City Council. So I'm happy to edit or adjust if you guys have feedback on some of these SMART goals. We mainly focus on increasing the volunteers and fosters so that can free up staff time and also reduce the number of animals in our care. Additionally, foster homes are going to help make pets more adoptable, as well as having volunteers. The studies show that one-on-one interaction with volunteers, even as little as 10 minutes a day, really helps animals to adjust in the shelter and actually increase improve the animal control.
Caitlin, we're losing you a little bit. If
Okay.
you've moved position or something, we didn't hear the last sentence.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Sure can.
Great. Okay. So we have improve animal control services for the community. That was one of the SMART term goals. That has been adjusted, obviously, since we've had the IGA. When that was originally written, we were focusing on having animal control under the shelter since it's a joint organization. So per the IGA, the animal shelter manager will coordinate with the sheriff and police chief on development and implementation of policies and procedures for animal intake. There's of course more to that section, but that's the first step. So I have emailed both Heath and Chief Daly, Sheriff Speckman and Chief Daly, on getting together for the implementation and development. On my end, I'm going to start outlining that. I will propose it to Heath and Dan, and then we can move forward from there. I also have meetings with Adele this week, and I will follow up with the animal control officer, Jesus, from the city side. Next, we have increased the number of community members signed up to be fosters. So most facilities are going to have a foster and volunteer coordinator. We don't have that option, so we're having staff who are cross-trained so that they're able, if someone comes in and wants to foster, they can give them an application, they can do their onboarding right then and there versus having them wait to speak to a manager. So far this year, I was running the numbers. At one point in time, we had over 35 animals in foster care for 1 week, so that's really good. It was several litters all at once, so that's why the number is so high. And so far this year, we've had 53 total animals go into foster of our adoptable animals. On average, I would say we're having about 180 adoptable animals. So to have 53 of those into foster care is really great. Unfortunately, I don't have the numbers to compare to last year. The reports this morning did not properly run those numbers, and I did not have time to hand count those before the meeting here. So additionally, if we have more fosters, that's going to help the overcrowding. We only have so many kennels. We've purchased additional kennels from Amazon because we're getting in more cats than we have room for. And a lot of our transfer partners are full as well. So we did just transfer 2 cats to Summit County, 2 cats to Eagle County, and then we had the following day 2 cats surrendered, a stray come in, and 2 kittens. So we have some pop-up kennels for cats that we have in the lobby, the staff room, slash flex space, as well as the bathroom. At one point in July, we had 26 animals in care. So the rough math for that, for the capacity for care, it's about 15 minutes is what the national function is or formula for kennel cleaning. And that took 6.5 hours of the day just to get those kennels cleaned and the animals fed. So of course, that's not including laundry, dishes, interactions with the public, doing adoptions, that sort of stuff. And then, of course, by having 3 people on shift, if one person calls out, we're able to have that third person cover for safety. Due to the potential for animal attacks, we have bite quarantines, stray pets that may or may not be safe to handle. We always want a minimum of 2 staff members at the shelter for safety. We've also, unfortunately, had some human safety concerns. So by having 2 people, it's safer for the staff versus just having 1 person. Do you guys want to do questions at the end or per slide?
I'd be asking questions as I go, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, next slide, please. So long-term goals, the city of Leadville does have their strategic planning outlined. 2 of the 4 assigned to us have been completed. Both of these are due before December of 2027, so they're longer-term goals. For the county, these aren't as relevant since they're the city, but just so you're aware of what we're working on in the background. So one is grants and other housing support. We do know statistically that people stay in domestic violence situations longer than needed if they don't have options to get support for their pets and their children. So we want to help find grant funds to support them so they can get in safe situations, as well as those who are facing homelessness. And then the other initiative is partnering with local businesses to either, one, have them sponsor adoption fees. So apologize for that typo there. And then the city policy to purchase animal supplies locally whenever possible. So we do that already. However, there are some things that we will buy in bulk from Costco so that we're saving money in the long run, such as paper towels. Next slide, please. So then we have our long-term goals. These are SMART goals that we are working on over, the next few years. One, for example, is going to be decreasing the length of stay. So that's going to be a multi-factored um, goal. We're going to have a lot of variables. So we're focusing on those quality pictures, increasing social media. So making sure we're posting on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. The more videos, the better for helping animals get adopted. And while we're focusing on increasing fosters and volunteers, we're going to help the animals get out faster, which decreases their deterioration. On average, it's about 2 weeks before an animal begins to deteriorate within a facility. So, if we can focus on getting those animals into home environments, whether that's an adopter or a foster within those 2 weeks, we're not going to have that deterioration, which can then impact them medically and behaviorally. And that's going to be more resources that we're spending. We're also going to work on supporting the local animal community. So these are typically SMART goals that we've had almost every year. We haven't been able to do a low cost vaccine this year. Clinic, we were hoping to get some grant funds for that and partner with local vets and organizations to host that for the public. The reason for that is per city and county ordinances, all animals must be up to date for their rabies vaccine. But we're finding at least half of the animals that come in as strays do not have any rabies vaccines. So, by making that more accessible to the community, we will get revenue from the licenses for the rabies clinics, as well as then have a healthy animal population and ideally less bite quarantines because animals will be up to date on their rabies vaccines.
Hey,
Um,
Caitlin,
yep,
if an animal is a stray, how do you figure out whether or not they have a rabies? They're up to date on rabies stuff.
great question. So we're only going to know if they, one, come in with a rabies tag on that we can either call the vet clinic or the organization who's listed, or two, when it's a return to owner. In the county code as well as the city code, I believe it says owners must provide proof of rabies vaccine at time of reclaiming. So that's why we put those on the Facebook post. And then we'll verify with them or with their vet if the animal is up to date on its rabies vaccine. If it's an unclaimed stray, we don't know that, so the vets will revaccinate for the rabies vaccine. And it's a killed vaccine, so we're not doing a live vaccine that might have more side effects.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. I wasn't sure how that worked. Like if there was a test for antibodies or something like that. I have no idea how the rabies vaccine like
Yeah,
verification works.
for privately owned animals, that's definitely an option. It's very expensive to tighter shelter animals, so it's
Yeah.
unnecessary expense wise. And then at the very top, I apologize, I skimmed over that. So we do want to increase operational efficiency at the animal shelter. This is again a long-term goal. This is something I mentioned when I first came on as a manager. I'll be discussing this further with the Animal Shelter Advisory Board, so there's nothing outlined yet, but as a need, we would want to start a capital fundraising campaign for some sort of expansion. The majority of shelters have separate housing for your strays and your adoptables or your court holds and your adoptables. Right now, we skirt around that by not allowing members of the public to enter the dog room because currently we have one dog on a bite quarantine. We might have a court hold that people can't go back and see or interact with. And so it's a public safety concern if they're back there viewing the animals and we have animals on a bite quarantine that they may or may not be properly reading signs of not interacting with. And additionally, so far we've really lucked out. We've only had 2 cases where dogs have been sick. So great cleaning protocol. But if we were to get kennel cough or a dog from the public comes in, like I don't know if you are aware, there was a puppy that was recently diagnosed with parvo. So that's highly contagious and deadly. If a stray animal is found and brought to our facility and it has parvo, the rest of the animals are then immediately exposed, and we would have to go in some sort of lockdown. The animal would have to go to a vet for isolation. And then if it touches any of the soil remains contaminated for years. So we currently don't allow strays onto soil for that purpose. Our stray yard is all on concrete so we can disinfect that. And that is the end for me.
Alright. Well, thank you. Appreciate that in-depth explanation of short and long term. It had come up, and I wonder if it's still on the radar about partnering with nearby nonprofits, Arc Valley, things of that nature. Is that still something that the animal shelter wants to explore?
Yeah, I've been working on that since about 2021, so we do have some promising options. Um, and of course, I've reached out to Planned Parenthood Leadville, which is a local nonprofit, to work on them with some things as well. So that would be probably under a long-term goal. There are short-term objectives that we can work on, that I'll be discussing on Wednesday with the Animal Shelter Advisory Board, but that's definitely on the radar still.
Okay, great, thanks. That's all I have.
Caitlin, I love that you're adding this, how you support the local animal community. Where is your like partnership with local nonprofits, including Arc Valley? I don't see that in any of your goals.
Sure. I don't have it is a goal. It's not a written goal that we've had on the SMART goals. It is in the IGA to work with them. So of course with Arc Valley, we've partnered on animal transfers. They've transferred in animals from us. We've transferred in animals from them when they had the fire. And then I just currently don't have anything to report on work partnering with Planned Parenthood. We've made some requests, and they requested to speak to the Animal Shelter Advisory Board. So I'll be following up with the board on Wednesday. I just didn't want to present on anything that I don't have an actual answer on at the moment.
Totally. I just as a long-term goal to foster relationships seems like a valuable thing. Instead
Sure,
of
I can definitely add that.
Instead of taking it all on,
Mm-hmm.
to spread some of that responsibility would help with long-term viability financially.
Sure.
Yeah.
What does that look like to you, like a partnership with Arc Valley or Planned Parenthood? Like, could you just give a brief overview of like what different ways that partnership would look like?
Sure. Yeah. So with Arc Valley, it's going to be a little different because they're a nonprofit organization with a government contract. So their focus is specifically Chaffee County. However, we have discussed transfer options as well as them transferring in adoptable animals from us. The same with Eagle County and Summit County, although those are government shelters. But the local facilities that have transfer programs that are transferring in from out of state, we're not currently able to transfer in from out of state due to spay neuter limitations, but I'm sending whenever we have a need for animals or whenever they've been with us for over 30 days, I send out an email to say, hey, these animals are up for transfer. And then ideally through those partnerships, they're prioritizing nearby local animals over out of state animals. Of course, that's ultimately their call, but that's the hope there. And then with Planned Parenthood, we've partnered in the past, whether it was I think it was 2020, 2019 spay neuter clinic, additional rabies clinics. So that would be something that we could partner on in the future. Again, I was hoping to have grant funds for those so that, we would have a proposal to submit to Planned Parenthood, whether that was we'll sponsor the rabies vaccines if you guys want to sponsor the other vaccines, or some sort of collaboration for the community in that regard.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you guys.
Anything else?
Nope.
No? Alright. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Of course, have a good day.
Yeah, you do the same. See you, Caitlin.
Bye.